extraction, by definition, is simply the removal of components from their original matrix. Now, that's what we're going to talk about from this point on. And James brought it to my attention with his email where he wrote out a number of points, and I think that they're worth repeating here. So let me read from James' email. And it's under the heading of solubility/dissolution/absorbability of the product. And in points, he writes first, the PU'ER tea is obviously a highly concentrated tea, not just a bunch of leaves in a bag where you make a weak cup of tea and throw away most of the spent tea leaves. His second observation is when you break open the capsules of Bee Circulation Aid and Royal Lingji Plus and pour the powders into a glass of water, they form a pretty nice colloid/suspension/solution. Very little, if any, of the material settles on the bottom. 3, he says, when you drop the premium Nutrients for Better Health tablet into a glass of water, it visibly starts to dissolve almost immediately, and most of the material forms a nice colloid suspension solution. 4, I imagine that the new individual packets that you have had a chance to sample also dissolve nicely in water. And yes, that's correct, they do. 5, on one of the other countries' website, I saw that carbon dioxide supercritical extraction techniques are used to prepare the Schizandra. 6, please see the email below, we'll get into that in a moment, that I received from customer services regarding my questions about perilla oil versus perilla fruit. 7, ginkgo extract is an herb that you already have discussed regarding the quality of the extraction. Okay, well, that's not too germane to this discussion, but point 8 is, I imagine that most of the ingredients are quality extracts, not just ground-up herbs stuck in the capsule or tablet. Rob has often mentioned the ancient extraction techniques, in quotation marks. However, it may be more accurate to state that Infinitus also employs modern extraction techniques to ancient formulas in order to prepare concentrated and absorbable active ingredients that don't just settle to the bottom of a glass of water or simply pass through your digestive system. Also, some of the labels mention the extraction ratio, in parentheses, such as 5:1. It would be great if Mark could explain this in further detail. I realize that many of their methods may be trade secrets, but since Infinitus is obviously going the extra mile to produce a superior product, we should be able to let potential customers know more about why Infinitus products are not just ground-up herbs that are stuck in a capsule like many other companies. And in my opinion, this is a very good selection of points. It makes a great deal of sense to ask this. And here's how I would like to begin. Let's do a thought experiment. Now, let's consider ginseng root for this next couple of moments. In the field, it takes about 7 years for a ginseng plant to develop to the point where the root contains molecules that are useful to human health. During the course of processing, the roots have to be first removed from the soil carefully to make sure that they don't break. We're looking for the finer, rootlets that are exceedingly useful to us. So we want to make sure they're part of what is removed from the soil. They have to be decleaned first. Then they have to have the bark removed. Then they're cut. So you can imagine this is a very involved process, like it is for any botanical ingredient that is used not just by Infinitus, by any other company as well. So let's then imagine you go to your health food store or your practitioner and you buy a bottle of ginseng root capsules. If you then open one of these capsules and put it on a white piece of paper so that you can examine them closely, and you look at them under a magnifying glass, you'll see that all you're getting in most of these products is just chopped up little bits of root. The pieces look like wood, and for the most part, they are. The primary components of wood, such as tree branches, tree trunks, tree roots, the primary components are cellulose and lignin, and these are fiber when we consume them, but otherwise they're of no use to people. When we take a product that is mostly cellulose, we ingest it, the body does not digest it, and then it passes out. It simply excretes from the body, doesn't really do anything. In most supplements, it is the cellulose and the lignin that takes up most of the volume of the product. But you have to consider that if you have the active ingredients in any given root or any part of a plant that is sequestered inside of a particle of cellulose, the body doesn't have access to it. So not only are you not getting the active principles, but you are getting plant material that interferes with the uptake of active principles. Such products do not do you very much good at all. The reason simply is that we humans do not encode a gene for the enzyme cellulase. Because of this, we are not able to digest cellulose. And therefore, yes, there is some hydrolysis of cellulose in the acid environment of the stomach. So it's acid that will break down a little bit of the cellulose, and when that happens, there is some exposure of the content to the watery environment of the gastrointestinal tract, but this does not release nearly as much of the active components as if you are breaking down or removing the cellulose in the first place. So competitors' products are really just bits of wood, bits of leaf, bits of flower. There's no extraction being undertaken here. So when you look at any company's labels, the preferred ingredients will always be extracts. So let's then look at extraction. Now, finally, we've gotten to the point of this today's talk. Now, INFINITUS, as James suggests, first uses the classical TCM extraction methods. And these methods are, in fact, common to all modalities of herbal therapy around the world. They evolved thousands of years ago, and just like we would expect, the ingredient itself must first be cleaned, and then it is dried. After that, what remains is usually pulverized into powder. Now, very early on in investigations into herbal remedies, practitioners realized that extraction works best when you have the greatest possible surface area on all particles to be extracted. And then the extraction part of the process truly begins. The typical solvents that have been used historically are water, because it's so abundant. It was also common to extract into wine as a source of ethanol. On occasion, companies or individuals doing extractions would use vinegar. And rarely, but often enough, animal fat would be used for extraction. And this is because very quickly on in the process, at an early stage, practitioners understood one of the fundamental principles taught in any university organic chemistry class, and that is simply that like dissolves like, meaning if you have something that itself is primarily fatty by nature, it doesn't dissolve in water. Everybody's heard the expression, those two are like oil and water. It means that they don't dissolve. They don't mix with each other very well. It takes a fat to dissolve a fat. And if what you're looking for is a constituent that is fatty by nature, you need a solvent that is fatty by nature. Back in those times, they did not know anything about acetone. They didn't know anything about hexane. The solvents just described, water, wine, vinegar, and animal fat were pretty much all that was used. The solvents in question, containing the desirable molecules after the process, are then removed by filtration. So you expose your plant material that is finely divided to the solvent. You give it time to react. The solvent pulls out those components that it will dissolve. And then you filter this mass. The desirable molecules are in the liquid phase or in the fat phase. They're dissolved in the solvent, meaning the spent refuse from the process is left behind. And that's where the cellulose and the lignin and all the structural components are. So by filtration, you remove the undesirable portion, leaving only that which is biologically useful to humans. Next step, and the final step, is the solvents are evaporated off. And what you've done then is first step removes the unnecessary materials, and then you remove the solvents. All that remains behind is a powder of that which you do want. So when we look at Canadian law, for example, and it's the same in most countries around the world, here in Canada, labeling laws state that you must declare precisely what's in the product. Canadians need to be allowed to calculate how much of the underlying herb is in the product. So if you look at a Canadian INFINITUS label and you see an extraction ratio for each of the botanicals, an example is 5:1, which is common, this simply means that the 1 gram of material that remains for use in this product came from 5 grams of originating herbal product. That is a 5:1 extract. It means that you've discarded 4 grams of stuff you don't need, you've kept the 1 gram that you do need. And in this way, the materials of value is highly concentrated and put in a form that is useful to the human body. You're not blocking its absorption with a mass of cellulose and lignin. You're exposing that which the body needs in a concentrated form. So imagine what we have here in terms of product available from INFINITUS. The useful part is retained, the not useful part is discarded. Look at pricing. INFINITUS products are very reasonably priced, but you're getting the good stuff. You're not just getting bits of root, bits of leaf, and therefore we have considerable value for the money offered by each of these products. Now, part of Jim's note also relates, as we mentioned, to comparing classic extraction methodology versus modern technology, and both are used, so allow me to continue to read from James' email to customer service. And the answer provided by INFINITUS Overseas Market Customer Service reads as follows. It says, further to your inquiry, our bee circulation aid, we would like to share the related information as below, as provided by our research and development team for your reference. It starts by saying, the question is, the product is a capsule that is filled with a dry powder. Does it contain any perilla oil? And oil is in uppercase letters. The company answers in the following way. It says, the reason why bee circulation capsule product does not contain oily constituents that can be physically seen in the capsule is due to the application of microencapsulation technique during the manufacturing process. Microencapsulation is a process in which tiny particles or droplets are surrounded by a coating on a micrometric scale. This technique enables Perilla frutescens seed oil to be encapsulated inside a micrometric wall made of hard, soluble coating to give small little capsules. Physically, these tiny microcapsules are seen as powder form rather than oil form. Microencapsulated powder of Perilla frutescens seed oil are mixed with concentrate active ingredients of Chinese herbs and then filled into vegetarian capsules. We purchase the highest quality of Perilla frutescens seeds and use them as our raw material. The seeds were physically pressed under low pressure to extract the active oily components, and that is another classical technique for extraction. Sometimes there's no solvent involved at all. Like olive oil, sometimes it's really just putting a mechanical pressure and doing a cold extraction. So this is the traditional extraction mechanism. And now I return to the note saying to extract all active oily components prior to the microencapsulation process. Now, back 3,000 years ago, nobody knew anything about microencapsulation, so there's the combination of classic extraction technique with the modern. Microencapsulation, it says, is critical to Perilla frutescens seed oil as it gives a significant advantage such as protection from exposure to external environment, bioavailability, prevent loss of nutrients, and provide protection to the encapsulated active agent against degradation. So very sensible. Now, then the next question raised is how much omega-3/perilla oil is actually in bee circulation aid? And the answer customer service provided is this. Omega-3 is a group of polyunsaturated fatty acids that are important for a number of functions in the body. The three principal omega-3 fatty acids are alpha-linolenic acid, eicosapentaenoic acid, also known as EPA, and docosahexaenoic acid, or DHA. The main sources of ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, are plant oils. EPA and DHA are found in seafood, including fatty fish such as salmon and tuna, and animal oils such as steel oil, the specification requirement for alpha-linolenic acid in our B circulation product is not less than 9%. Just as an example, the test report for batch number 16A05A01B shows that the amount of ALA in the product is 13 grams per 100 grams, equivalent to 13%. Meanwhile, we conducted routine testing for each batch of production, while for the first batch of the year, we also sent to testing organization SGS for verification. You can see that the standards are very high, and the results always come back good. And this is the result of the combination of the various extraction and then encapsulation techniques. The third question then is, why does Infinitus have different descriptions for the ingredient perilla? As on the label it says perilla frutescens fruit 2:1. And then in the marketing tools it says perilla oil. And then on the company's website it says perilla frutescens seed oil. These on the surface appear to be three different things. The answer that came back was this. It says perilla frutescens seed oil is essentially active oily component extracted from the seed of the raw herb Perilla frutescens as the main active ingredient. Therefore, the description of perilla oil in the marketing tool and Perilla frutescens seed oil from the official website, in principle, is not misleading. In fact, both could be regarded as common or commercial name. Since we use Perilla frutescens as our raw material, we indicate the same on the label. The 2:1 ratio is simply an indication of a production yield, just like we described with the 5:1 ratio. Meanwhile, our legal team and research and development team will conduct a comprehensive review of our product material for the needs of aligning the descriptions of marketing materials. It would take a certain period of time to finish this task. Please stay tuned for a future update. Thank you for your understanding. So this shows a couple of things. First of all, the quality is exceptionally good, and the company is responsive to questions like this. They say they want to get it right just as badly as we want to get it right. How many companies would just brush off such an inquiry? Well, not Infinitus. They are going to, possibly reword the way they explain it, but they are very happy to explain that things are already aligned. They are not contradicting themselves internally. They are not misrepresenting anything. So there we have an explanation of extraction, both ancient and modern. You can understand now what the ratios mean on the product labels, and you can be content that we are not giving you little pieces of wood. We are only giving you the good stuff. Rob, back to you.